Rick, you ready to hit it?
Yeah, good morning, Keith. I sure am. What's up?
You always ready, man. Always. So the title of this show will be How Do You Live a Higher Life? What is the highest level of life I can live while I'm someone's spouse, parent, neighbor, food server, doctor, student, or experiencing a life situation, whether I'm healthy, health issues, affluent, financial insecurity. What is the highest level of life I can live? And it doesn't matter what I'm doing, whatever the situation is. I think we do a show on that topic, Rick. You want to kick it off?
I think I don't have anything to say because I don't have a clue, and
You just live it. You just live it.
I'm just anxious to hear your instructions so I can start doing it. Yeah, I think actually, I do have sort of a notion of your highest and best self, how I've experienced what I think is my highest and best self when two things are in play. When two things are in play in my life. Number one, simplicity. How I can keep things simple, how I can stop my mind from complicating something that is very basic into something that's super complex, a network of interlaced terrible circumstances or confusing circumstances. Skip that, make it simple. So simplicity is number one. Number two for me is humility.
Yes.
Humility. If you get your ego out of it and just think, I'm a servant here. I am trying to figure out, like every other sentient being in the world, how to survive in a way that does not hurt others and maximizes my own life opportunities, and be humble about it. That humility tends to disperse the clouds and make things a little clearer. Your ego tends to make the goals, or tends to make what you want more important than what actually is best for you. So simplicity and humility are the only two gauges that I have when I feel like I'm engaged in my highest and best self. That doesn't mean I feel great about it. Sometimes I feel like when I'm humble and when I'm acting in a way that's simple, or looking at things in a simpler way than what my mind wants to do with them, the result isn't all that's great. Sometimes I think, well, maybe if I had done X, Y, and Z, which again is trying to mess with the circumstances,
Yes.
change it in a way that things would have turned out better. But for me, that over the long run, the arc of highest and best to me comes from the intersection of humility and simplicity.
Rick, man, you said it, man. Like,
I don't know about that, but it works for me.
Man. I look at my life, man, and I'm like I've had some life challenges, over the last 7 years. But, my friends have told me that they wouldn't know it by the way that I'm living. And I asked them, like, what do you mean? Like, I'm living? Like, I made more money before. I've had a title before, in terms of what I was doing. I drove a fancier car than the Prius, so what do you mean? And they were like, your being, the way that you go through life is just, I would never know there's been challenges. And I think that is a testament, not to me, but a testament to the practice of just being so committed to it. And you said it, Rick, in terms of keeping life simple. I have just made it a commitment that I'm going to live an unconditional life and I'm going to be aware of my choices, the choices that I make that will minimize my suffering. And I am going to be committed to that like it's my job. But when you say it like that, I think it could sound like, oh, that's going to be a lot of effort.
Yeah.
All I'm doing all day is waking up and doing a practice. And just by being committed to the practice, the next thing just automatically happens. Keith, what are you going to say here? What are you going to do? I don't know. But what I do know is I'm going to do the practice, and then it'll happen. Whatever happens will happen. And to live this life of higher meaning, what it's meant for me is to go from Keith 1.0 that was all achievement oriented. I look back on it, it was disproportionately achievement oriented. How do I get what I want? Or how do I avoid getting what I don't want? Like that was at the core of it. That's what was going on for me my whole life. It was this achievement mindset. And you listen to, I listened to some, and it all had its place. I listened to some of the teachers before I met you that I was listening to. It was 10 easy steps to make more money, be more efficient, have the career you want. Everything was like that. Nothing about like how to the inner peace, like how do I cultivate that? It was out there, but that's not what I was picking up and reading and bringing to my consciousness. And even the more and more I took that in, I achieved more, if that's what you want to do, and I did, but I didn't experience peace. Mm-hmm. And if I did, it was fleeting. Yeah. And when did I experience peace? When I made it simple. I was on vacation and I slept for the first 48 hours of my vacation because I was so beat and whipped from everything else. It was when I slowed down that I experienced peace. You know how much living it is to be done outside of those few instances? A lot. Yeah. I spent the majority of that time striving, trying to achieve.
That's right.
But as you taught me, the juice is in the simplicity. That's where the juice of life is there. And so what I've started to do is I've changed it. And what I've said to myself of everything that happens in the course of my life is the practice, especially if life goes wrong. That's the practice. And in that it's become how I live a higher life or have life with higher meaning. And it is not what I'm doing. It's what I'm being while doing whatever that is. So if I'm at work, what am I being? It's not the work. It's like you said, I'm a servant at my core. So even though this title says Keith Wellness Specialist, Keith Entrepreneur, Keith Fit Founder, no, that's all window dressing. I'm a servant, like period. And who am I being as a servant? As you put it, humble and simple. That's what that's the being. And in that, I am able to stay open. Everything that comes into my space, what am I being with this? What am I being? What am I being? And I just keep going back to that, Rick. And that becomes my opening. So if you're a parent, are you a peaceful parent? Are you a kind parent? Are you a loving parent? While you go about the business of guiding, sometimes that means creating rules that seem like they're inflexible, but you're raising a conscious individual, hopefully, that is not so tied to achievement, but is tied to inner peace, being rooted in inner peace, being rooted in goodness, living a simple life, and a simple life doesn't mean that you're not successful. Or you can do that too on the material part of things, on the form, but are you being peaceful on the way? And that's what I had to ask myself. And every single day, every moment of the day, I get an opportunity to demonstrate that. And the breathing, as we said in the previous podcast, makes me constantly aware of that I have a choice. And so when I look back over the last 7 years of my life that I started to do the practice, man, I am having the most fun, experiencing the most joy and bliss. I mean, life keeps showing up the same way. I'm not taking it personal, making a big deal out of it, not consumed with achievement and striving. And Rick, no stress.
Yeah, Keith, what a lesson, huh? What a lesson. And look, can you think of how much happier you would have been had you discovered this a little earlier, right? Here's another thing that I think goes right along with those excellent ideas that you just, and your history, your excellent history of the practice. Let me just give you a quick example of simplicity. When people, for example, who want to lose weight or get in shape, you don't need to spend hours going through books trying to figure out what the optimal diet is. And you don't need to figure out whether you're going to do 6 or 8 floor exercises and then spin and all the rest. It's a simple formula. If you want to lose weight, you have to burn more calories than you take in. Okay, that one principle will help you lose weight. You don't need to do all of the other machinations, because the machinations really get in the way. It's just, okay, I can't eat so much because I want to lose weight. And if I want to lose a lot of weight, then I don't eat while I'm exercising, or I eat after I exercise and I eat modestly. That's an example of simplifying something that we have made as a culture way too complicated. Another example, this time in the humility realm. Instead of having an opinion about everything, why not just try out this approach? Instead of saying XYZ is in the world and I don't like it because, you start with XYZ is in the world and so am I. And then you don't have an opinion about it.
Right. Right.
Just see what that feels like not to have an opinion, because opinions are really based on your ego and what you think is a preferred and a superior way of looking at things. Now, of course, we're all going to have opinions. I'm not arguing for getting rid of them. But my idea behind this little exercise is to show you that the world is going to exist regardless of your good opinion about it.
Right.
So you might as well get used to the idea that your opinion only matters to you. And if that's the case, and your conflict with others is based on your opinions versus theirs, you can eliminate that conflict by just not making it important for you to have the other person know how you feel. Anyway, I just think that those little exercises might help people get a little peek at what humility looks like and what simplicity looks like, and how much simpler and how much more humble an existence creates the kind of joy and inner peace and the things you were just mentioning, how joyful you felt since you've begun the practice. You get a little better feel for that.
Oh yeah, man, totally. And it's also helped me, with keeping it very simple. And I made it solely about me in terms of my practice. I haven't made it about anyone else. No one else changing.
Yeah, that's right.
I can make a request and say, hey, listen, would you consider doing this, or would you consider, not using that language or saying that? And they can make a choice. And if they make a choice that it's like, no, I'm going to continue doing this, I accept that too, man. I keep it simple. And we just don't engage in conversations like that. But I just keep it super simple, man. And by being, as you mentioned earlier, the servant, which I think is such beautiful, the servant is beautiful. I mean, they talk about in the Bible with Jesus, washing, the disciples' feet. I mean, like a servant, man, like that, and when I am in that space, it's amazing that nothing bothers me when I remember that I'm a simple servant. And when I do that, I'm able to recognize other servants. And so despite what their title is, everybody can teach me something, man. And I experience so much more joy in my life. It's who, when I'm a servant, it's who I'm being. Like I'm being all the principles that, all the great teachers about love and kindness and acceptance along the way, all the great teachings about the practice that's there. Eckhart Tolle tells a story about this affluent person who had achieved so much in life, came to this spiritual place, and when he walked into the spiritual place. He'd been traveling for a long time, and when he got there, he saw the gardener, and he said, "Where is the Zen master? Where is the guru? I need to see the guru so I can, I want to become spiritually enlightened." And so he asked the gardener. And the gardener said, "Oh, you just walk that way, and you turn the corner around that corridor, and you will see it." And so, and when he got there, he saw the gardener climbing into the chair where the spiritual guru sits. The gardener was a guru. Servant, man. Like they're all around us, and we look past them like they're not even there, man. Like they're not, because we're closed. And here's how I know when I'm living higher meaning. Is when I'm open to everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
Every life situation that happens, it's indifferent. It's an event. It's a situation. It's It's not personal. And once I get that, man, I start living a higher being. It's in how I interact with the person who happens, the role that they happen to be playing in this particular life situation and moment is a restaurant server, or it's the flight person that I get on the plane with, or it's the passenger next to me. It's my manager at work. It's my colleague. It's my subordinate. It's my children. It's my spouse. It's a person who looks different than me, thinks different than me. All of that. Who am I being in all these different spaces and places. That's when you get that and you are focused on who you're being, at least this is true for me, that's when I'm living a higher life, when I'm my best self, man.
Yeah. And, you know, when you're your best self, people can't get enough of you. It's just a wonderful experience to be in a network where people understand who you really are, what you're trying to do, and how much compassion you have for others as well as yourself. And Keith, you are a perfect example of that. I love the show. Thank you, man. I'm going to replay it and listen to those words again.
Oh, man. Thank you so much, man. Keep it simple. Humility. Love it, man. Thank you, Rick.
Adios, Keith.
Adios.